Aloha, welcome. This is the Agricultural Innovations Symposium and Approaches for Success in Hawaii. We have a very good panel for you today to talk about some of the things we're going to talk about. I did want to say that innovations, I'm sorry, let me introduce myself. I'm Bill Steiner. I'm the chair for the symposium, and some of you might know me as the former dean for agriculture here at Hilo. Innovations is something that's not new to Hawaii. In fact, if you take a look at our native Hawaiian culture, you will see that there were innovations all over the place. They recognize the role of genetics, for example. There were a number of strains that were developed of different crop types. The knowledge of stonework was built, and irrigation systems, terrace loy, fish ponds. So innovations was used there. The work materials, there was innovation in that, plant products, animal material. There was innovations in engineering knowledge, in fact. The Kohala field system, some of you might have heard of or know about. Peter Vituzik and I worked on that system, and that system was used to grow thousands of acres of sweet potatoes in upland Taro, and it was basically in this area here on the Kohala side. And if you've been up there, you know that's pretty much a very dry and very rocky area. And you kind of wonder, how did they ever manage to grow something there? The innovation there was to plant sugarcane above the taro. That was a dryland taro that was below it. And every time in the mornings the mist would come, and the sugarcane would catch that mist and wave in the wind and shake the droplets of water down on the taro. And so that was another innovation they used to get past that dryland system. Hawaii demonstrates something I think that all cultures have to go through. In a way, culture is a way to escape from nature. You use your own systems that you develop to innovate and to become better and better at what you do. So this graph shows the development of a social system, an economic system, and that has to be done within a natural environment. Hopefully, it comes together in this little sustainable area here, which many of you are working in today. And then it comes down to how to supply energy to these systems. We're challenged today by this idea of peak oil. We now know that modern agriculture is based on cheap energy, and the economic conditions will not keep up with this cheap energy failure if it happens. And just this past week, crude was benchmarked at $45 a barrel because the Saudi basically broke OPEC rules and lowered the prices. And that is how come we've had this tremendous price drop. But you know now that Russia has just moved in to Syria, and we now know that there may be a huge blow up there if in fact we get into a shooting war with Russia. The impact of energy costs in insular economies is good and bad effects to some extent. The good effects is that it might lead to somewhat of a decrease in population numbers as jobs are lost, so we can survive a little better sustainably. There will be a decline in ag commodity markets if energy prices stay up or come back high again, which they probably will because they've cycled twice now in the last 30 years. These things can lead to a weakening of the island economy, a strengthening of diversified ag, a return to family-run business models, and a strengthening of dependence on biofuel crop production. Well, biofuels is something that we are been lax at in developing. And so a couple of years ago, about 6-7 years ago now, I imported 10,000 seeds of these 3 strains of oil palm from Costa Rica. I grew them out and then handed them out free to certain farmers who came to me. And the proof of concept study here was to determine insect and fungal pests attacking the oil palm, determine the elevation limits to growth, determine optimal soil qualities, determine climatic effects, and determine productivity. This is what these oil palms look like today. They're starting to produce fruit. They can produce up to 20 bunches of fruit around the base of the palm, and those will eventually grow to be 20 to 30 pound bundles each. I've formed the Hawaii oilseed producers this past year. The role is to give beginning farmers access to equipment to be able to extract this oil and also access to new trees. And so the idea is to try and use the 140,000 acres of available farmland that's here since sugar has gone out. We have imported an extraction mill. It's now sitting in Honolulu. It just arrived there from India. We anticipate it to be on island probably on Monday or Tuesday this coming week. It will be erected at Otto Assie's farm, where, if any of you heard, he just gave a talk next door in the last period on sustainable piggeries. So there are potential new business spin-offs from this. So here we go innovating again. Potential new businesses include feed manufacturing, fertilizers, potentially latex and plastics for pharmaceuticals. And this is a whole new world that we hope to open up here and enable even small farmers to be able to grow their own fuel. This computer is not an Apple, obviously, because it's dropping my photos. But there is a contact sign-up sheet on the table off to my right here in the back. Those of you who want to get oil palm trees or are interested in getting information, sign up there, give the information. I'll get it to you. Let me turn now to the consideration of our speakers. Ray Maki was going to be here today. He could not make it. Ray is on your board of directors as a treasurer of the state body. Unfortunately, he could not make it. But we do have 5 other people here who are very talented and very, very resourceful. Our list of speakers include Paul Towers, Vincent Mina, David Sansone, David Fuertes, and Bob Schaefer. And I've asked him to consider these questions. What do you see as the future of your approach in Hawaii and its contribution to sustainable systems? And what else is necessary, policies, education, equipment, to broaden your approach so that others will adopt it in the future? And hopefully they can address this, or we can come back to those questions later on. So Paul is running a food farm to table project. He'll speak to us first. He's from the company Renewable Resources. He sees education and technology as key to productivity in farming, and he'll discuss the opportunities this project entails. Paul, if we could have you up here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you. This is actually the first time publicly we're going to speak about this project. It's been going now for...
Forward, back. This is the pointer.
Okay. It's been in development 4 years now in Oahu. Thank you. And it'll be the first project of its kind in the Americas to do what we're going to do. And it's very, very key, not only to Hawaii, but also the Pacific Rim. This particular project is a private project. We have help from the Department of Agriculture and ADC at the state level. And it's very exciting, but it's all aimed at improving the future of agriculture in Hawaii. As the good doctor said, our problem is food supply, and it will continue to grow and be an issue for a long, long period of time. So we took a look at what we could do to utilize the existing assets that we have without importing new materials or limiting the import of new materials to improve our sustainability, our food security, and our overall security. Like it or not, we are in a very untenable position here in the Mid-Pacific, and we could be a target very easily. Anytime you're on an island with an island resource-based structure, you're very susceptible to disruption in that structure. So as private industry, privately funded and privately focused in Hawaii, that's been one of our main objectives. So on Oahu, we think we have somewhere around 400 tons per day of pre and post consumer food waste. We can collect that at a cost which is underwritten by the process which I'll be talking about. We bring that in, we process it, remove all the contaminants, cook it according to FDA standards, and we add lysine, corn that we bring in from the mainland that we crush into a meal so that we have a protein level at least 12% for pigs, and it'll be different for fish. But our initial production is going to be 10 million pounds a year of pig feed, and that will be supported by production of renewable natural gas with an output of compost and other materials. As I mentioned before, we're working with agribusiness development. Our objective on pig feed is 50 cents per pound or 50% reduction of the current import price of pig feed. We think that as a certifiable pig feed, this will help restore the pig industry here in Hawaii that's gone from 65,000 sows down to less than 5,000 sows today. It's untenable to expect that we can feed our growing population with that kind of production. Just yesterday, it was announced by the State Tourism Board that we have new flights coming in now from several different parts of the Pacific, which is going to add 4,000 people a day in and out of Oahu alone. If you assume that we're at about 0.3 to 0.5 pounds per food wastage loss per day per person, you know, that's a supply that can go somewhere. And right now, it's either going to a ditch, to pig farmers uncooked, or to HECO, H-Power, for thermal destruction at an additional cost. We can process that into usable materials. Again, 10 million pounds a year of FDA certifiable pig feed. Second priority is fish, and third priority is chicken. There's a 1 million egg layer facility going in on Oahu right near Waiwa. They have the permits, they just dug a well, and they're going to be using 300,000 pounds of feed a day, and it's all import. They see the potential for larger scale farming in the mid-Pacific, not only for egg production, but also for egg distribution to other people outside of Hawaii, so as an export. Currently, state grants are earmarked to purchase animal feed here for farmers to supplement the high cost coming into the state. You know, our bill in this next session of the legislature will ask for a bond to support the private investment to purchase that feed and help build this $40 million plant. We should be in production hopefully by late 17, early 18. Where are we? Who are we? We're a private company funded by long-term Hawaiian investors. We currently have 160 systems in operation on biogas in the US, 300 worldwide. All of these are my technology, my former company that I sold, and I brought the technology to Hawaii for the main reason of making a difference to the Pacific Rim nations. My most current projects, Johannesburg, South Africa, where we're taking digester gas, we're splitting it, taking the methane off, using it as a renewable fuel, as a replacement for diesel, at half the cost of diesel in Johannesburg. The CO2 is recovered from the digesters. It's being used in my facilities to grow crops with hydroponics. CO2 is a growth medium, for a natural growth medium for lettuce and other crops that are grown hydroponically. On Oahu, where we have real serious problems with water and low soil productivity, our lettuce production alone will produce 60,000 heads of manoa and oak leaf lettuce a month, which is in high demand right now. Currently being imported from California. We all know the problems of California water, and it's not going to get any easier from what the long-term projections are. Our first system was installed in '97 in Sacramento. We have a number of patents on biogas purification and processing to make sure that the biogas not only can be used as a regenerable fuel, but it can be reused in a healthy way not to negatively impact morbidity and mortality of populations, both human and animal. So basically what we're doing, we're taking the waste products in, we're splitting them, we're recovering the metals, plastic, glass, and those are going into recovery processes that we don't control. So it's a Y in the process. It either goes into the digester at somewhere between 200 to 400 tons per day. That digester is anaerobic, okay? So it decomposes naturally those organic components and makes methane at approximately 60% and carbon dioxide at approximately 40%. What we then do is we take the water that's in the gas and pressurize it up. And then at that pressure, the solubility of the carbon dioxide changes and it goes into the water, so that the methane passes through as a 98, 99% methane. Then we release the pressure on the recovered carbon dioxide, just like opening a bottle of soda. And that carbon dioxide at 98% recovered material then goes into the greenhouses as a growth medium for lettuce, berries, all kinds of things that can be grown hydroponically with water that's recovered from the process. An interesting thing about food waste and other pre- and post-consumer food products like Taro brands, fish products, Loon Farms, Larry Jeff's farms, et cetera, is that they have a high water concentration. So that 75% water in that 200 to 400 tons per day is recovered. It goes into a recovery pond. We use that pond to grow duckweed, which is actually used in Southeast Asia to purify polluted canals. And we harvest that duckweed off. If you know duckweed, it's a very, very small leafed plant that covers a water surface area completely within 16 hours. We take that off so many tons per day. That goes back into the digester to help us make more gases for recovery in the process. The materials then coming out of the digester are certifiable organic compost that can then be used on former pineapple land to recover the soil productivity that's been lost for years in this volcanic soil, which is no longer sustainable without a significant amount of inputs of inorganic NPK fertilizers. Again, it's not a sustainable business model for the population of Hawaii. So we're trying to help be one of the sources that changes all this back to what's more natural. So we clean and condition the gas that's coming out of the digesters. We split that off with using the water in the gas. Then the water goes into the as a Ag 1 certifiable water for irrigation. This will be used by vegetable farmers and Dole for its current use in Central Oahu on pineapple. This plant is also completely closed loop. There's no waste, no certifiable problems, no airborne contaminants coming out of this process. So what we then do is we put the RNG, which I will refer to here as CNG and RNG, in tube trailers, and we deliver it to hopefully the bus fleet of Honolulu, so we can truly say that we are running a renewable natural gas fleet at some point with enough production of gas. And isn't that what everybody comes to Hawaii for anyway, for the paradise? Why see stinky, polluting diesel buses when you want to come and pay for an experience in paradise? So we're trying to live the Aina the correct way by using technologies that have been proven like Lego blocks independently one to another and putting them together in a way that hasn't been done yet before in the Americas, in a way that makes sense and that's producing sustainable technologies and a sustainable future for all of the Pacific nations that are currently under severe problems with global warming and rising water conditions. So we will deliver to fleets at that point of that material, and it'll be used on a daily basis at approximately half the diesel equivalent BTU cost of diesel. Now, we know that fuel is cheap right now, but it won't be cheap right now for very long based on what's happening with world instability conditions. Our focus is we don't care, because it's about sustainability in Hawaii, using our own resources and not depending on what is impacting us outside of the state. So that's our mantra, that's our focus, that's our business model long term. And I think all of us as farmers in Hawaii really need to think outside the perimeter fencing of our own farm, what we can do for the state, what we can do to maintain our own security, which is going to become a bigger and bigger issue as time goes on. The lettuce that we're making, we're going to have 40,000 square feet under production by June of next year, producing 60,000 heads of Manoa oak leaf, green leaf lettuce a month at less than half the cost delivered from LA. Again, a focus. If we can support the people and the farmer of Hawaii, we're going to be a lot better off. Anyway, thank you very much. And it's great to be here. Yes.
We're going to take a brief few seconds here to switch some slides around. Yeah, questions? Go ahead.
Have you discussed any thoughts about transferring that energy into electrical to get over some of those needs?
You bet. That's a great question. And here's the problem. You got a monopoly, okay? And you know about the monopolies, okay? Gorillas like bananas, but the gorilla will take the banana and the tree and your life. And that's what's going on with Hiko and Miko and everybody else. They want to maintain their monopoly, and in order to do that, they don't want any other producers unless they are controlled by that monopoly. So in order to put a project in like this, it costs a lot of money, and they're not willing to pay the price to support that as a cost basis, nor are they willing to guarantee that we will take so many megawatts per day of what you're producing without derating you. So they'll do what's cheaper first, which is more than likely solar and wind. The solar that we produce is going to be used on our site to fuel our operation on a daytime basis, and at night we're going to be using our biogas as well. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
You said that corn was something that is mixed into the food waste?
Yeah.
Is it GE corn or is it organic, and where does it come from?
It comes from Washington State, and it's an organic feed corn, non-GMO, and we bring it in whole because it degrades less that way, and then we grind it as we need it. Otherwise, if we could grow it here, we would. The problem is land, and the problem is water. So we have to use our resources in terms of land and water in the highest and best use possible. Unfortunately, on Oahu, that's making more houses, which doesn't do anybody any good. And we should be producing crops. Yes?
Did I hear you correctly that the material coming out of the digester would be organically certifiable compost?
Yeah.
I'm just curious how it's possible if all kinds of potentially non-organic food is being fed into that waste that maybe you don't even know where it's coming from. The hotels are giving GM corn to guests and that's going in.
It doesn't matter, because once it goes through a process of anaerobic decomposition, okay, you're taking an organic and you're literally breaking it apart. So whether it's GMO or not, there's no germ left. Okay, it's gone.
But that new DNA that's been created by man, that's disintegrated.
That's gone.
So,
Yeah, it's called anaerobic destabilization and heat destabilization. You destroy it.
that takes apart the genetically modified code.
It's gone. It's gone. And once the pigs eat it, as a certified pig feed, it's also gone. Because remember, we're heating it. FDA standards are 212F at 30 minutes minimum on the raw food after it's separated before you add any other admixtures to it, which are cooked separately.
I have a question over here.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. Coming back to your market target segmentation slide there. So you're taking me from point A to point D. We're all consumers. It's not like every day I can buy a new vehicle.
Right.
So if that's long-term business plan, thinking out of the box, real time, as as a consumer, you know, how can I know that your product is going to work for me? It might be a goal.
Because that's a great question. There are standards on renewable natural gas, and they follow what's called the gate price or the Hubble price for natural gas on the mainland. Okay, so it has to be.
Paul, can you use the mic, please?
Oh, yeah. It has to be 98% plus CH4, 89% CH4 as a vehicle fuel minimum, with a certain amount of moisture. I think it's 2 grains per MMBTU of moisture, and O2 and N2 and so forth. So it's all very tightly qualified. Yeah, you bet. Yes.
All of your products, your fuel and your feed, will it be only for Hawaii, or are you planning to export?
No, only Hawaii. Yeah, only Hawaii. What we're trying to do here is develop tools that people coming from other Pacific Rim countries can come and learn from and take and then downscale for their particular needs. We don't want to export products, we want to export technology.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
This beautiful plant, where are these parts made from? Where is this technology?
Oh, boy.
American? Is it
It's Europe.
China?
It's European, it's African. Most of it is actually U.S.
The material itself made here in the
Yeah.
United States?
Yeah, everything that we're using is made, all the equipment and everything is made here. Yeah. Yes.
Could it eventually be a publicly owned company?
I was afraid you were going to say that.
I didn't want to
I-
you sound like a great innovator.
Yeah.
But I just saw a documentary that said there's 400 of these publicly owned in the United States right now.
They are,
400 methane digesters.
yeah, they are, and they are all either public or private projects.
I'm saying eventually.
Yeah, we've been approached, but we are not. We want to keep this a Hawaii company, employing Hawaii people and disseminating right technology to the farming community. Yeah, good question.
That would be to circumvent some of the monopolies.
Yeah,
Have all the heat on you.
the problem with a lot of these projects, as I'm sure everybody in this room realizes, is without financial mentors, you're done. And in this market with cheap energy, it's very, very difficult, as the doctor was talking about, to really depend on long-term focuses. The state ledge is totally behind this project. They don't want to supplement farmers anymore for import feed. They want to produce their own. And we're trying to help that through the private industry partnership to make sure that that happens long-term. So.
You could go to innovate the next project.
Well, we want to use this as a springboard for other innovation. You know, separations of siloxanes, non-methane volatile organics, all kinds of things. You know, we have ideas in activated carbon and silica and deposition and modeling that could really help to impact farming. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Paul.
Natural farming inputs?
Not yet. It may be a requirement by USDA. The swine flu thing that's going on, everything.
Our next speaker is Vincent Mina. Vincent is has that's not the right one. Yeah, Vincent is has a whole systems ag for Hawaii and I approach. His opportunity is looking at family farms as centers of community resources, and we'll just leave that slide up there for you if you want to give us a few words.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you. As it shows up here, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I'm just going to share with you the path that I was on 21 years ago and how we innovated to actually be able to farm. I came home from a men's leadership seminar realizing that I needed to get off the trapeze I was on. I was a decorative painter, used to do marbleizing and wood graining and stuff. But I wanted to work the land. And I realized the only way to really get from that trapeze to the other one is to let go of the one I was on. And I told this story the other day in opening, but I'll just reiterate that it was through the support of my family, my wife, who understood my passion for working the land, and her being Kanaka Maoli and seeing what was happening and her growing up on the island, that we ended up going in this direction, not having any farming experience, not having any land. I mean, it was literally, I mean, looking back in retrospect, at 40 years old, it wasn't the proper thing you would do in solidifying a career. And so I was going to go work for an organic farmer friend of mine. And one day she came home with all these packages of sunflower greens. You had them in the lunch. And all I could see as the provider, you know, because she was Hapai, was $1.50, $1.50, $1.50, $1.50. I'm going, hey, you know, I'm out of a job. You know, I can grow these things. Well, why aren't you growing them, bro? And that's what started our farm, in the spirit that we loved them so much we felt others would too. And right now, on 2,000 square feet, we're producing 400 pounds of greens a week, which translates to about $100,000 a year in gross production. Now, through that evolution of creating that farm, it has a number of different offshoots has occurred. Because of the success we had on a small scale and being awake around what's going on in throughout the state, it spurned me into creating conferences around the relationship between our body and the soil. As a matter of fact, Bob Schaefer, a number of years, was a presenter at those conferences. And the reason why I wanted to explore that is because when I would get up 4 in the morning to go out onto the farm, if I didn't feel that good, the farm didn't want to know about that I didn't feel good. You know, things were ready to be harvested, and it's like, too bad, so sad, brah, you know. And so we were eating organic, and I'm going, you know, what's going on? I mean, why am I not on top of my game? And so we started to explore this relationship between our body and the soil. So there's only 2 things I found in this process and in my life that doesn't lie, and that's the body and that's the soil. And so in that spirit, in this exploration, we built 12 conferences called Body and Soil on Maui and had national experts in their field come in and speak to that relationship. Well, as we moved on, as we were putting on these conferences, I was also on the board of the Farm Bureau for 3 years. I was a secretary on the executive board, and I couldn't even get soil health on the agenda. And so I started getting frustrated around what that represented here, because I saw what we needed to do here in Hawaii to create the kind of agricultural presence that was possible here. And so I talked to a friend of mine who also presented at these conferences, a man by the name of Jerry Brunetti. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was, I considered an icon in agriculture. He passed away last year, unfortunately, but he was introduced as someone who forgets more than I'll ever know. You know, a real brilliant guy. And he was able to articulate a lot around agricultural systems, whole systems of agriculture. And he said to me, well, why don't you get a chapter of the National Farmers Union there? And I said, National Farmers Union? I have no idea National Farmers Union who it is. Well, they're actually older than the Farm Bureau, 9 years older than the Farm Bureau. And so I started looking for members, and I found a member here on Big Island, and she said that, yeah, she would like to get a chapter developed, and so I supported that because at that time we still were putting on our conferences, and I was like a one-armed paper hanger trying to keep a farm going and, you know, doing community work and all that. So the chapter began 2009, and the problem was that she wanted to take it into an anti-GMO organization kind of thing, and that's not where I was at. I wanted to populate the board with farmers. I wanted us to be a solutionary organization. And so that took us in the direction of where we're at today. We're basically have a relationship with legislature that's very positive. They really appreciate where we're coming from. They see that we're about, you know, supporting our producers to be able to farm. You know, and one of the themes that came into this whole convention is that you know, farmers just want to be on their land. They want to be with their plants, and so the best thing that we could do is create a situation to where we get regulations out of the way so they can do what they love to do. You know, my wife is in a big process right now because of food safety coming down. They're going to make us get into this whole, you know, documentation trip to where you're not really farming anymore. You're just doing a lot of paperwork. You know, okay, you got to check off that I lifted my left foot and I put it down. Then you got to check off I lifted my right foot and I put it down. You know, it just becomes a real serious problem for us people trying to produce food for the community. So that's being rolled out soon. So we're going to see how that all plays out. But I think there's going to be some big problems trying to have that, you know, be a situation where that's going to be attainable. So in essence, where we're at as we move forward is here's a family farm who didn't have land, didn't have equipment, and on 2,000 square feet, on a 7,000 square feet lot, are making a living at farming. And the little girl that was in the womb, who now is 21, has her own swimwear line, and she's designing and fabricating and has her own business. So that being raised in a family that was entrepreneurial, you know, she was following her joy and created that. My son works on the farm, and as I teach him to manage the farm, I also manage his testosterone. And so, you know, we have a really good relationship in the spirit of having our family farm being what's important. And that is the reason why I'm able to be here this weekend, is because my son and my wife are on the farm. It's not because I have a lot of time on my hands, because it's only 2,000 square feet. But at any event, I feel fortunate that we're in the position to do what we're doing. When it comes down to, there's two things that I would really like to encourage people who are active, especially in the millennial realm of these people who have a lot of passion around seeing systems be more healthy and more holistic, is to look at one thing I don't hear about, and that is when corporations were given personhood. That's created a lot of our problems. And also to look at the importance of food being our medicine. We just really need to pay attention to being empowered by our food, feeding ourselves so we can be bright and on the ball and productive, and not turn into some couch potatoes playing video games and then wondering, you know, why things are so messed up. So as you can see, I have a definite feeling for these things, passion around it, and at the same time know that as leading this organization now, representing farmers, I'm moving from a place of looking at our producers and what they need to be able to produce food here locally for everyone. So thank you very much.
Any questions?
Yeah, man.
Zoning issues is something I'm thinking about a lot. I currently live on residential land, a few acres, but I'm into farming.
Right.
Agroforestry, and I want to develop the land to produce and be able to produce so much that I can share. But when I go to the zoning board, they told me that I can't sell what I produce.
You can't sell from your land?
I cannot sell.
And this is on Hawaii Island? Yeah, well, you know, what would I think would be the best thing to happen in that spirit is get on the legislative committee, be a member of the Farmers Union, get on the legislative committee, and bring that forward, that we can advocate then for specific issues that need to be addressed around your situation and others who want to do the same thing. You know, our zoning where we're at is zoned for a truck farm. So we're able to put a greenhouse on our property and do what we do. But this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, is getting out of the way, getting government out of the way so we can do what we love to do, which when you think about it, farming isn't hard, folks. It's essential. You know, when people say to me farming is hard, I feel it's kind of condescending, because work is work, you know? I would really like people to get in touch with the fact it's essential. Without us, they don't eat. People don't eat. And last time I checked, we need food, you know, nutrient-rich food. So, you know, please get involved, man, you know, in the spirit of be the change that you want to see happen. And we'll support it. Our organization is definitely there in the spirit of we don't have a family farming history in Hawaii. So we're creating that. Okay.
Nice answer. Our next speaker is Dave Sansone. Dave is restoring Hawaii with Food Forestry, and his opportunity is maximizing productivity and livelihood. And as you can see here, he's the owner of Agroforestry Design, which offers permaculture consultations and has a whole range of other things that he does. Dave, do you have slides?
Yeah, they should
Okay,
be.
and this is forward, this is
Okay.
back. That's the pointer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. All right, yeah, so my name is Dave Sansone, and as Dr. Steiner said, I do own Agroforestry Design. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, good. I hear myself in stereo, so kind of funny. So yeah, basically, originally I'm from New Jersey, and moved to Washington State to learn how to farm. I was there for 10 years, where I was doing permaculture and agroforestry research. I was able to have year-round fresh food, including greens and berries, fruits, nuts, just through having botanical diversity of site-adapted species. Here in Hawaii, I've been here for about 5 years now, and have 3 gardens where I'm doing research on low-input, low-effort agroforestry systems. So basically, I like to call it let nature do the work. I'm trying to help farmers find ways to do a little bit less work and have more time for harvesting rather than, getting stuck on weed patrol. I'll just keep on moving right along here. 10 minutes goes really fast. Agroforestry, basically, it's a new word for an ancient practice. And I put that in quotes because here in Hawaii, it's not ancient, it's still happening. As Uncle Chris Chang said, the culture is adapting. And actually this image here shows a very resilient windbreak that I took this photograph a few weeks ago. This is down in coastal Puna, and we have the basic gist of agroforestry, which is multiple crops. So we have the coconuts above, we have hala in the background, and then what's the beach naupaka on the lower spot. So multiple plants, multiple uses. Passive systems, so systems that basically don't require a lot of work to keep on going. And this is a great example of this, because we don't know, who knows when this was planted or tended last, but here it is still going strong today. And that's really what I like to do, because then as cultivators, we can step away from the garden or the farm, and then nature's going to take care of the work for us. Locally based, low input, low effort, and resilient. And here in Hawaii, right, that's kind of like the theme that I think was held true through the centuries, was using what you got here. So moving forward, so basically what I tried to do is, this kind of changed a little bit now that we got it on this, this projector, but I tried to sum up some of the basic things that I'm working with. And here in Hawaii, there really are a lot of issues that we've got to deal with. And has anyone heard of the 6th Great Extinction? Yeah, it's basically right now we're living in a time where we have record die-offs of species, like complete extinction. And does anyone have any ideas of like one reason why? Like, anyone? What's that? Us? Well, it's not just humans. As if you were here before, you saw the biochar thing. People can make nature better in a way, but how about a human activity that's a cause of the 6th Great Extinction? Who said that? Farming. All right. You know what? You get a prize. We get a vanilla vine just for you, fire ant free. And yes, it's kind of a sad thing, but it's very true. Is agriculture is actually one of the biggest causes of the 6th mass extinction. It started about 10,000 years ago. Land clearing is also one of the main causes of deforestation. So as we clear land for farming, we're taking away the habitat for other species. So how can we work with nature rather than against it is something I've been trying to figure out. So biochar, that's how I start. You get your biochar in the ground. That's a way to increase your carbon, get homes for the microbes. And you get all these other benefits. And as I cycle through, all these things have multiple functions. So it's not just one thing that I'm aiming for. We get multiple benefits from each step. So now we have our biochar down. Let's get our IMOs, indigenous microorganisms. Now they've got the home. They're not going to wash away as easily. Then we come on down here and let's intercrop with native species. Here's where we have this conservation agriculture model where I've got moringa and cocolao growing together, and turns out that they're both really high-value crops. The cocolao, if you plant it in a field all by itself, that's not really such a great idea because it is a native species and it's not really adapted to that. So that's where getting multiple crops in the same spot can really help a farmer, right? Because if you just have one crop, a pest might come in, wipe you out, but if you have multiple ones, then you have your backups. And then we can also fit in bioterraces, or basically, what do they call them? Vegetative contour barriers. And basically, this is lemongrass planted in a strip along a hillside. Like if you're walking across the hill, that's on the contour. And if you plant them dense enough, when it rains hard, soil will wash down and get trapped into that bioterrace, and it actually turns into a terrace over time, and you didn't have to lift a shovel except for planting those plants. Vetiver is another great one for that. Also, lemongrass is another high-value crop, and with all crops, it's really about your marketing. You need to know who your customers are, how to get the product to them, right? Ideally, cut out the middleman. Okay, so now this is something that I really like to recommend, and it's just say wait for it. Instead of running in and, we got so much to do, we got to get these plants in the ground, get it all cleared, and we plant, and then what's next? Weeds, yep. So the weeds come. So rather than rushing in, let's just wait a little bit longer. And this is crotalaria you see on the left-hand side, and you'll notice it's a weed all over the place. But if you sow it like this, really dense, and this is not one of my photos, I just got that off the web, but it shows that you can fill a space quick, and then if you cut it down before it goes to seed, kind of important because it could become a weed in your crop, but if you cut it down very low, it'll kill it, and then that is going to create lots of mulch, and then inhibit the weeds, and also have some other benefits. If we get ground covers in there, then we have more weed control. That's Ilima Papa. I believe that is from Mark Hansen, who passed it on to Keahi Tahon. But that's basically a ground cover Ilima. There's another one that's erect, that stands tall. So here in the Kalo, it works great. And that's actually part of how I'm able to get Taros this size. Whoa. I can't lift it with one hand. It's with ground covers. Biological weed control allows me to plant this and walk away, and then show up occasionally, and then dig this out. It takes just a little bit of work. But it's really more about the mental work beforehand. So now if we have our green manure hedgerows, that's another agroforestry practice that we can add into our mix. Rather than taking one system, let's mix them all together. And that's basically, once again, a row of trees or shrubs, often nitrogen fixing, that are cut on certain intervals. And things like hedge clippers, that's what Keahi figured out. Battery-powered hedge clipper makes it a lot quicker. I'm more of a hand tools kind of guy. I like to be close to land and see what it takes to do it that way first. So if you get those, that's going to add your nitrogen as well. And then the prunings will keep the weeds down. And then once again, here's that the lemongrass. So we have that as a weed barrier. If you plant that around, say, a veggie garden or even around your farm, same with vetiver, that's a great way to keep the weeds out. And if it's planted dense enough, you can even keep things out like wainaku, which is not a big... that people don't really like it around here, but okay. See, it's almost the same size every time, but we have all these great functions like nematode traps. Who knows how much poison has been put on the ground here to kill the nematodes? Meanwhile, the crotallarias actually trap the nematodes. So if you sow the seeds of that, then let those nematodes get in there. You're not going to get them all necessarily, but it really can help. It's just one more benefit in addition to the weed control and also, as you'll see in a second, the nitrogen creation. Pest trap crop, cranberry hibiscus. Sounds kind of crazy, but the rose beetles love this plant. So rather than trying to fight them, give them what they want. Yeah, you smother them with love, right? So they come and eat this red plant first. They love it, and then they'll leave things like blueberries or whatever else they're eating. They'll leave it alone. That is cranberry hibiscus, Hibiscus acetosella. And then intercropping is another great way to keep the pests down. Through basically like the rose beetles, they go by sight. And if it's all the same food, like a big monocrop of it, we're creating a nice feast for those pests. But if we mix the crops up in strategic ways, not just planted willy-nilly, but strategic ways, and I like to have rows of complementary plants, then we have a lot less pest damage. And then also the aromatic confusers, lemongrass, just the smell of it can deter pests that are going by scent. So all this stuff combines into a climate-smart agriculture model. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it up here. And so once again, now that crotallaria system, it is biotilling. Those roots go deep. They break up the soil. It even grows on rock. Then we have our nutrient trap crops. Oh, I just want to mention, tilling is a huge source of the greenhouse gases. Releases a lot of them into the air just by tilling. So when we do it this way, we're actually trapping those gases. Nutrient trap crops like bamboo. Plant those below your plantings or vetiver. And then the bamboo you can turn into biochar. So multiple functions. Here's a tough one. K-Singual Agroforestry. What that is just taking trees, chopping them about 4 feet high or so, and then using the prunings for mulch. And this is a native tree called Nenelau that I had so much of it, I just thinned it, and I just prune it occasionally. It does well for me here, but can be kind of weedy in an open area, so be careful with it. But it's worked very well in Central and South America. And then biofertilization. That's nitrogen fixation. Those are the nitrogen nodules that you see on the bottom left. That's on the cowpea, which does very well with taro and many other plants. So we get the free nitrogen from the air. And so that's just some of the stuff that I'm working on in terms of letting nature do the work. In terms of where to go in the future, I'm working with a group called Kekipi Kalo and Keahi Tahone, who is moderating the cultural panel. He and I are putting on a hands-on food forestry course, also known as the Hawaiian permaculture course. And Donna was very helpful in making that happen. So that'll be happening this spring. Word will be out soon about when that will be exactly. And one of the main things I think we need are research sites around the island. Can be people's homes, but basically since the island is so different and the people are so different all around the island, if we all figure out where we live, what does well, and then share that information with others. Just the cultural transfer of knowledge over time is going to make things better for us all. So I'll just cut it off there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. David?
Can you hold that column up one more time?
One-handed.
You gotta record this, excuse me.
Anyone besides pictures?
We have a question over here, too.
David, do you work on any charts?
Charts?
Like creating nutrients of any plants?
No, I mean, honestly, most of the work that I've done is just, working with whatever plants I have at the time and putting them together, see what happens. So I think in the future, ideally there would be some kind of funding to support that, because right now it's just me, on my own doing my own thing. So I'd like to be able to do that, though. It's a good idea.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce now David Fuertes. David is promoting community sustainability and has been for a number of years. This is a man I admire very much for his work in the communities that he's done. Please welcome him to the...
How do you use that?
Forward, backward, pointer.
Forward, backward pointer. I think I get him. I'll go sit down. First of all, congratulations. You guys have some unreal projects going. Very innovative, epic. Ours one, I feel like one microbe. We're just small in Kohala. But you guys are doing some unreal stuff. I'm going to read my stuff because I got a tendency to blah, 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 and then nothing is said. So I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read fast because I know I get only 10 minutes. Definition of community innovation: making changes or alteration by bringing new ideas or methods to our community. Sometimes it's a full circle. As certain practices become obsolete, then as time progresses, with needs and trends occurring, those practices and philosophies are resurrected and reapplied. Looking at the past, visioning for the future, helps us to set our present goals. There's a saying that vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision is a waste of time. But vision plus action can change the world. Aloha, my name is David Fuertes. I'm a director for Kahua Pa'amua, a very new nonprofit, 501c3. Kahua Mua, translated, is building a strong foundation, and we're trying to do that here in Kohala. So our project is called Palili o Kohala, which means the shoots of Kohala. And we're kind of concentrating on kalo and also on sweet potato. Okay, so we use asexually parts of the mother plant, the shoots, and that's why we call it Palili o Kohala. But the other kauna of this is that 7 of our farmers and our new farmers have never farmed before. They're all brand new, and they're part-time farmers, and they're trying to learn how to farm. So that's also the shoots of Kohala. When Master Cho came several years ago, we took him up to the mayor, and the mayor asked him, Master Cho, what do you want from me? And he said, I want to build a learning laboratory on this island that will bring East and West together so that we can, have world peace and also learn about good farming, which is natural farming. So the mayor asked him, where do you want this? And he said, I want it in Kohala. And so that's the start of this project. It started 3 years ago, and with the mayor, and then also R&D and other sources that we have. Oh. Okay, this is our framework. This is what we believe in. Before applying any action to a project, for me, it's important to visit this framework. 1, origin. And this applies to your own life also, okay? 1, origin. It's important to know your origin and it can be applied to your problems or your opportunity. Know where it comes from. 2, identify your values or belief. This drives your decision making. 3, understanding your purpose, which guides you and have you answering, why are we doing this? And 4, choosing your destination. Where will we go? How long will it take us to get there? And then after you've got that answers, then you can start working on your implementation plan. Okay, so we're going to start backwards. We're going to start with destiny. So our community development plan, when it was developed, we want to keep Kohala Kohala. Okay, the goal is that Kohala community will produce 50% of what we consume by the year 2018. So if you look at your plate, and on your plate you can say that came from Kohala, 50% of what you eat. Either it was grown, it was bought, but still grazed in Kohala, it was fished, it was foraged, it was hunted, it came from Kohala. So the strategy is, to promote and support community of diversified agriculture. So if you look at the origin of Kohala, and Doctor was talking about this, I want you to look closely in this area over here. Okay? In the pre-contact Hawaii, Hawaiians in North Kohala fed a community of 30,000 people. Today, our population is only 6,000 people, and we bring in about 85% of the food. Those field system, those rocks over there, which is underneath the pasture, sugarcane was grown in that rocks. This was pre-contact era, before the white man came. And then, as the wind break, and then they planted sweet potato. When we talk about growing on the rocks, Master Cho talks about the Mozambique desert, how he grows it on the rocks. So the food source, Puanui, estimated to be 25 square miles from Upolu to Puakahua. That was cultivated. 4,000 to 6,000 people farming that land. So, if we could feed 30,000 people before, what is preventing us from feeding 6,000? How come? Okay, so we go back to the framework. Now we're talking about values. We believe that we can produce 50% or feed 50% and be sustainable. If you drive through Kohala, you see miles and miles of beautiful pasture land made up of cattle, beef, and also dairy. What we are lacking is the starches and our vegetable. As we revisit some of our past, the ahupua concept, where each area produce its own. That's what we're trying to do. North Kohala will become a working food system, whereas we're working together to feed ourselves healthy foods. So the purposes are, and let's look at some more. We're working together with natural farming for healthy food and soils, and using natural farming as a practice. Taro cultivation for food security and economic development. We're also planting sweet potato with that. Our families plant every month. We plant 400 plants, and 10-month crop. Last month we started harvesting approximately 600 pounds a month. Very small, but it's a small start. But working towards, of course, higher production. This converts to 200 bags of poi for every 2 weeks, that we can supply our community. Here you see our families working together to clean our kalo, and then also preparing our hulis. And the end product is making poi and kulolo to create economic development. Another purpose that we have is raising chickens and pigs the natural farming way for food security and income. More for learning practices for natural farming and creating small production with our natural farming. Of course, you know about that, no flies, no smell. Okay, building a natural farming pig chicken house. This farm is about 3.5 or 4 years old. It was all trees and bushes, and we came in and we cleaned it up. And so we built this structure, and it cost $15,000 only by material. And then our community just came together and built it. Over 1,000 hours of volunteering, and this was one of our family's son Boy Scout Eagle project. In the back, we extended it and 20 by 50, and we make IMO. We're capable of making a 1-ton IMO at a time, using our tractor to go under the roof and turning it daily. Okay, we also believe that growing it for the food basket in our community and sharing it. Civic responsibility is really important in our program. And what we do every month, we donate sweet potato to our Kohala Sacred Heart food basket. Equally important to production is strengthening families and communities. Another thing that is our purpose is education, mentoring our youth to be future farmers. We have, and then we also give classes. In fact, we have one of our students that's going to be graduating this year, one of our family members who's going to be graduating this year from the college in tropical ag. We also give classes for free. And in fact, back there is one of our instructors, Leslie, who just did a class for about 15 people on all the different type of inputs. So we provide classes for free, and that's through the Kohala Resource Center. Another purpose is connecting to the Aina. It's practicing good stewardship. So if you ask me the question, Doc, how do we see our future approach to sustainability system in Hawaii? I go back to my opening statement, innovation. Certain practices become obsolete. Then as time progresses, it can become a full circle. So if you look at the first one, growing traditional crops using natural farming methodologies, that's Malamai Ka'aina. That has always been of value for the Hawaiians. The second one, Ohana-based model farm based on traditional practice. If you're Japanese, you understand Tanamoshi. And basically, everyone contributing and everyone benefit. The last one is trying to create economic opportunity by growing food, kalo, wala, pigs, and also sustain the community. And that's through our Ahupua'a system, where we can do it in each of the communities. Okay. The second question was, what else is necessary so others will adapt? To me, I think the aloha spirit, ohana system, and no shame, share all your resource, share your information with others so that everybody can learn. And when you do that, you share unselfishly where, from planning to production to marketing. And so that we can develop strong individuals, strong families, also strong communities, strong island, strong Hawaii, and making it a wholesome place for us to live in. So I think when I was asked to be a speaker, one of the requirements was, what's your quote on soils? I don't know who sent that to me. And I had to ponder on that. I said, oh, so in closing, my quote is, and if humans believe we are the greatest, then who turned us into dust? God created the microbes and us equal. Aloha.
Thank you, David. We'll take one or two questions for David. Anybody want to ask a question? David didn't mention, but one of the important things about his programs is that he trains kids up there, and he gets, I think, 175 a year or something like that. It's just an amazing number of kids go through that program. We talk about developing farmers for Hawaii because the average age now is what's in the 60s somewhere for farmers. So this is where some of those farmers are going to come from for the future. Thank you, David. Okay, we come to our closing talk. Bob Schaefer. Bob is a healthy soils person, and he is like David, partnering with these soil microbes and bringing on some very important things as a result. Bob?
Thank you, Dr. Steiner. I couldn't agree more. As a lifetime composter, we are indebted to the microbes, and I think we're fairly equal. Aloha, everyone. I know we're at the end of the day, and some of you might need to go, and so if there are questions on the project at Honeka'a at the old Hina Mill that you'd like to ask right from the front, please raise your hand. We can answer your questions, or I hope to answer your questions. That's in part why I'm here today. And to talk about the project that we call Hawaii Earth Projects that has started at the Hina Mill that's down below to the Makai side of Honeka'a town. The project is going to build organic potting soils, organic compost, and vermipost. Let's go through these a little bit, okay? Little background. I'm a farmer. I've been a farmer, biologic farmer, and organic farmer all my adult life. Last 25 years, I've been consulting for farms. I'm an agronomist, and I work with compost producers, organic farmers, conventional farms. I do a lot of composting, a lot of cover cropping, and in general, educate about soil health for farmers. The site was originally, of course, a very large sugarcane mill. It's been abandoned for a long time. The property was purchased by Josh Gottlieb, I'll say a great guy. In 2015, we've been going through about 30 different permits that we are required to have right now to pull off this project. The site, I'm going to move along pretty quickly, so again, if you have questions, just raise your hand. There we go. So what's going on at the site? It was a sugarcane mill, and unfortunately, in the harvesting of sugarcane, in Hawaii, the cane grows so strong and so dense, the first thing you do is burn it, take off all the extraneous organic matter, and then unfortunately, the cane was scraped with the bulldozer up into piles, so it would take a little bit of soil off each time when they would harvest fields, and for 60 or some odd years, they would bring that material back to the mill. It was processed, and it ended up being dumped as a waste product in a gulch out in back. And so for 60 years, there's been this buildup of organic matter, or had been a buildup of organic matter and soil from the cane fields deposited into what I call the resource out and back. That's this area right here. Here's the 3 large buildings that are on the site. This is the second largest building in Hawaii. It's a great building to compost in. It's got substantial concrete floors. It's 210 feet long, 230 feet long. It's 100 feet high. It's a A-frame. It's 100 feet high. It's about 110 feet wide. I'm going to install a passive compost or a static compost system into the building, into at least half of it to begin with, where we'll blow a little bit of air, lay down tubes on the floor, pile the organic matter on top that we compost, and put a little air into it. That'll go through the required pathogen reduction period for 14 days. Then I'll take the material out, finished it out outdoors in typical windrows. So that's the composting part of the operation that'll be carried out in this building. This building here is actually quite large. I'm going to build vermipost in it. We'll be using the typical blue worm and the red worm, going through typical earthworm composting in that building. And then the third part of the project is this area right here. This entire thing is the resource, as I call it. It was where about approximately 1 million cubic yards of bagasse and mill mud was pushed into there, processing waste from the building. We just did the second round of extensive testing on this material. Here's the markers for the last round of testing, where I went to 40 sites on the property. We dug down to 9 feet and 18 feet, took samples from that, submitted it to the lab that the state of Hawaii, the county of Hawaii wanted to see the material submitted to. This is the second time we've submitted the soil and bagasse that comes out of this for extensive testing for every pesticide known to agriculture, including everything that you could name, including dioxin. And to date, everything has come back ND, non-detectable. And this is with very highly legal, bonded laboratory. Of course, they're protecting their backside because you can't allow things out that have DDT or heavy metals, arsenic, etc. The University of Hawaii has 2 times now tested this material by taking it out, growing corn in it, harvesting the leaves of the plant, harvesting the corn that resulted to see if there was arsenic or anything else detectable in it. There was not. I've been using the material now for 1.5 years on my own farm, just looking at it, because this material coming out is basically sand and silt, a tiny fraction of clay in it, and a lot of bagasse that I'll show you in just a minute. It makes very excellent potting soil. I could compost it, but I prefer to just bring it up, screen it, take the gravel out of it, and any of the larger gravel out of it, and use it as a potting soil component. Because right now, on this island and in the state, I don't see very much potting soil built here. It's all being imported. It's all being imported from materials like peat that is not sustainable. And as a farmer, I have a need for potting soils. I've built potting soils all my life. I build them for my clients. But I want to see a 100% recycled potting soil on this island. I'll build it from this bagasse material. I'll build it from vermipost in it. I'll put some compost in it, and then locally mined cinder. Once again, I've built a bunch of the potting soil now from that formula that I just described. It grows great crops.
Where are you going to find cinder in Hawaii?
I'm looking all over for cinder. Yeah, it's a hard one to find it. Yeah, right. Okay. So we've drilled down, a professional team we've hired twice now to drill down into this resource. At 30 feet in the ground, it's heating to 150 degrees. It's anaerobic heating. And it's a very, very bizarre material. I work in Australia. I work with a lot of cane processing waste, but this has been buried in the ground for 20 years minimum, some of it up to 50 years. And we're seeing a lot of, well, when you bring it up, it smells, it's hot for one thing. You can't touch it. From anywhere from 18 feet deeper, you can't touch it when you bring it up. It's 145 degrees. It smells like hot molasses. It's loaded with organic matter. It's got sand, silt, and a little bit of clay. This is primarily what it looks like. It looks like bagasse. There's a couple of other better pictures. Here is the classic picture of this stuff. As you can still see the yellow color on the outside of the cane. It's still loaded with the vascular bundles. This is just a side cut of the cane once you bring it up out of the ground. It's a very strange material. I took typical mineral analysis of both the soil and the surrounding materials around the bagasse. We took a couple of soil food web tests from up higher in the soil. I haven't done biology on the material deep underground yet. That will come later. It's not only a bizarre material, but it's a very nutritious material. With all of this organic matter in it, with sand, silt, and clay, I feel like it's a recycling project. The county at first wanted to call it that it was a dump, that it was a sealed dump, and they wouldn't let us bring it out of the ground, but I think that we have successfully shown them now that no, this is a valuable material. It was put here incorrectly. Our organic matter and our soils, topsoils, do not deserve or need to be buried in the ground. I want to bring this whole deposit back up over a period of time. There's 1 million cubic yards, so there's a lot of material there to be recovered that can be used very nicely for potting soils. Again, one of my concerns as the agronomist hired onto the project was to make sure from the front that this material is not infected or contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, etc. You can go online and find that both the EPA and the County of Hawaii have done independent surveys of the old cane material. The only times that they have found concentrations of things that we should be concerned about was where they would mix those materials at the cane, at the processing mill, or where they treated seed. Not in the bagasse itself, not in the fields themselves. And so my projection was that this material would be clean. There's 2 professional lab surveys that are very expensive and very extensive and are legally binding that have found ND, non-detectable levels, not even parts per million, but non-detectable levels of every herbicide, pesticide, fumigant, nematicide, etc., used in agriculture. So we've tested beyond just the things that are used in cane. We've tested for everything. That includes the heavy metals also. The heavy metals are very low in this stuff. My main concern was arsenic. Even at low volumes of arsenic, when you add phosphate to potting soil mixes or to something that potentially has a little arsenic in it, it can liberate that arsenic, cause it to be more available. We haven't found it. We can't find it. And again, the U of H has done 2 trials growing out corn and did not find arsenic in the corn or the leaf. Yeah. We have been, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
That's the record from the, when the cane comes in through the mill, and it goes through the knives to chop up the cane, and the goes into the bath where these rocks and cane are separated. And that's the water that goes down, and a record from the crushing mills. So not of that from the what we used to call boiling, when they boil the sugar, water. That, you know, the mud that came from the mud press, all that.
Yeah, so this gentleman is saying that he used to work there and giving us a little description of some of the fractions of this material and how it got in here. We have been fortunate to have a number of people come into the office in Honoka'a bringing in photographs, bringing in their testimony, as this gentleman just kindly did, showing us what happened. Because actually, part of the engineers, there's engineers hired for this job that are showing us and working with the county permits of how we're going to take this material back out. And in the way that it went in, we're going to layer it back out. And so ecologically, this is not going to be a disaster. It all has erosion controls, et cetera. And at the end of the project, they're asking us to put it back into a natural state. So at some point, long time up the road, when this material is removed, we will replant it. So I know we're getting close to the end of the time. I don't think there's anything too critical in these slides that we haven't already covered, so I can take questions.
Hey, Bob, one of the questions I have, at that temperature, as you get deeper, are you going to run into methanogenic bacteria, which are going to create a pyrophoric situation? It sounds like there's methane in this material.
The question is there methane in it? Yeah, I'm sure there is. There's engineers that are working on that right now. It's not my area. I really don't know how to answer it any better than that. That's what we know right now.
Bob, is there going to be any kind of test done as a substrate for IMO? For, you know, we are now using as mill run to use the gas, because I know that people haven't been getting
great success with the bagasse, but having it cured this long like that in anaerobic conditions, I would think it would make a really good substrate. Is there biological stimulants you're finding as far as the elementals in that?
Yeah, so maybe we can use this for some IMO substrate. I think there's a lot that we don't know about the material right now. This is primarily my investigation. I've been playing with it, just seeing how it responds to plants, how I can use it as a potting soil. That's all the further we went. I think there's some interesting stuff, especially once I get this into a screener and I can separate off the gravel. There's about hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of gravel that's in with it, unfortunately, from the soil. These came from our fields. I'll separate that stuff off, separate the sand, silt, and the clay off, and then get that organic matter fraction to where I can get it separately and play with it, and we may find some interesting, useful stuff. Yeah, hi. No, we're planning for everything. I'm trying to replace imported potting soils right now. I'm going to produce a really good quality vermicompost. This has been my passion for a long time, and I've set up many compost operations. I'm completely obsessed with compost since I was 19, and I'm going to build really good quality, everything certified organic, everything run through OMRI, and I don't plan for any export for many years, at least as far as we can see. I think that we have a big demand for potting soils here and or compost and vermicompost. That's what we're going to do with it. Yes.
You did soil testing. Did you test for the nutrients that are in the soil?
Yes, I did. It's low in phosphate. This agrees with the University of Hawaii's analysis also. This material is low in phosphate. It's reflecting that it was low in phosphate when they grew it. Okay? Anything that was up in the fields got brought into the resource. That's where it came from. So they didn't use much phosphate. They didn't understand how to do that correctly. They were using triple superphosphate, using it in small amounts and not trying to really build soil health, but just feed the plant. So there's not much phosphate in it. It's actually quite rich in potassium. It's got a decent amount of calcium, magnesium. It's got nice micronutrients in it. It doesn't have much nitrogen, which I don't care about that. So, yeah, I have. Okay. Finish up to that question?
My next question was, has it been tested for the microbial life?
Yes, only up in the top couple feet, though. There's about a 6-foot layer of clay that they put on top of the whole thing to seal it. So I peel that off, and then that top foot or two, I sent it to Elaine at Soil Food Web. Great bacterial, great fungal diversity, decent bacteria, a great diversity of free-living nematode, which I would have projected because it has been brought from fields where it had soil. However, as we get deeper, I haven't tested it biologically yet because this is going to be very different. It's anaerobic. It's over 140 degrees, so I just haven't tackled that part yet. Yeah.
Well, you know what, for exporting soils, exporting plants, you know, it has to be, nematode is one of the biggest issues. So would that be able to be exported, you think? Export, you know, you know, when you send plants to the mainland and it's, and you're using the material here, you think that would meet the requirement of nematode-free?
Yeah, I think what David's getting at here, potentially this material might be able to be shown, I'm pretty sure it is free of plant parasitic nematode. Free-living nematode's good, plant parasitic nematode not. It shouldn't have plant parasitic diseases in it. It shouldn't have plant parasitic nematode. I'm hoping that this is literally a sterile material. It's not sterile, but sterile of pest, where we might be able to use to our advantage in some export situations that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Okay, there's a lot of things we have not covered in this presentation, and some of these are listed here. I'd like you to think about these because each one of these requires research. Each one of them requires some regulatory approach to handle it. They include things like invasive species, global climate warming, aging of the resident farmer population, which we did touch on a little bit, sustainability and growth. More on that is needed. Energy in an age of fluctuating security. And finally, how to deal with GMO technology. We don't want to go into that here because that could run us all for hours and hours. But it is coming, and I'm sure that the UH Manoa is going to have an innovation meeting in about 2 or 3 weeks over on Oahu, and I'm sure that that's going to come up at that meeting. Some of you might want to try and make it over there. Thank you very much. You've been a good audience. HFU, thank you for the opportunity from all of us.